You are listening to Framing the Future podcast, presented by the Architectural Authority magazine.
Even if you're a skeptic regarding the changes in the earth, like in the planet, I think that green, it's just prosperity. It's just growth. You know, it's time to grow, to be prosperous, to, I don't know. It's just something that I think...
to revolutionize,
yes,
in a different way, the way we build and design.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, Verdora starts with Radcliffe.
This episode is sponsored by our partners at Sitco USA, with the largest selection of marble in all South Florida. Visit Sitco's showroom at Doral and enjoy their extraordinary design collections, including iconic works by renowned artists such as Zaha Hadid, Anish Kapoor, Ferruccio Laviani, Ora Ito, and many more. Framing the Future podcast dives deep into the heart of architecture education and the journeys of those driving the field. We bring you authentic, personal stories from students, graduates, and educators. Let's explore their motivations, learn from their challenges, and celebrate their triumphs. This is your space to connect, learn, and be inspired. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Framing the Future podcast. I'm your host, Ana Paula Leal, and in today's episode, we are thrilled to have Mariana Lora, a dynamic leader in the architectural field with a rich background in sustainability, leadership, and creative business practices. Mariana has made remarkable contributions as the Sustainability Team Director for the FIU NOMAS team at the 2023 NOMAS competition in Portland. Her accomplishments include the prestigious Leadership Agility Certificate and the Leadership Maccabee Task Force Prize, alongside her notable achievements in the research and creative practice. Join us as we dive into her journey, exploring how she's driving innovation and sustainability in architecture, and how her experience are shaping her vision for the future. Welcome, Mariana,
Thank you so
Framing
much,
the
Ana.
Future podcast.
Thank
and you
you.
have an amazing story to tell and a beautiful career so far as a student and also working. So can you tell us about what inspired you to study architecture?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. My story, I think, would start with my mom. And she's an architect. So I grew up like seeing her like drawing plans. She would take me to sites, and she really inspired me to. I would sketch floor plans, and I would go like, "Mommy, check, like, how is it?" And she would like do a small crit for me. And she started seeing that I got very serious about it, and she was like, "Mariana, this is a hobby. You're not gonna study this in the future. Like, don't even think about it." Because, you know, she in Costa Rica, it's a different story than here in the US to practice architecture. So when it came the time that I actually had to choose what I wanted to study, there was only one thing in my mind, and it was architecture.
But that's inspiring because you were exposed at a very young age to the design world, to architecture. And do you know the reasons why she told you not to study architecture?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, I guess she had a prejudice. Practicing it in Costa Rica is very different from here. I feel like, and especially in her times, as a woman, sometimes, usually they put a pause on their career, and it's very hard to get back to it. So when she paused to dedicate her time to us, my sister and I, get back on it, it was a bit hard. So she, I guess, had that prejudice. But I wanted to demonstrate that, times have changed, and especially here in the US, it's a different story. Opportunity is always there.
And what was the point that she realized, okay, Mariana, I'm gonna let you do it.
I think it happened like already in university when she started seeing me like pass those late nights, and I was not tired to work on the projects because it's passion, like you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
I can do it for free. So I guess that's what demonstrated to her that I made a good decision.
That's nice. So you moved from Costa Rica at a very young age to United States. And how was your transition in the school system once you applied to FIU? How's been your experience?
Yeah, so I guess like any immigrant, that transition sometimes is a little harsh, but for me it was great. I was ready to come to the land of opportunity and make the best out of it. I was very happy when I moved. I think that it's not to speak bad about my country, but opportunities I think are sometimes greater. Maybe here in the US, maybe it's easier to find them. But I think that something that impacted me was that Costa Rica is very present, the rawness of nature. You can throw a seed in the middle of the highway and it's gonna grow. Things grow and it's very raw. And I felt like when I came here to the US, everything's very planned out and a lot of concrete in Miami. So I think that was very impactful when I came here.
Yeah, that's true. I think like I also Cuba was an underdeveloped country and everything is, stopped in time in the 50s, in the 60s. And when I came for the first time, he was like, wow, and there's more nature. Yeah. Nature is more present in our countries. Yeah. So what was one of your, in this period of time studying at FIU, what was one of the most challenging and also rewarding projects you have been part of?
Yeah, so regarding university, I think I had a thought very present in my mind that the university is the one that marks your future. Like if you're studying in this place, that is going to decide how successful you're going to be, a lot of factors in the future. And I came to the realization that it's really dependent on the student and what they want to do with their studies. I always tell people, I see them stressing, like, oh my gosh, I really want this university, but I don't know if I'm going to get in.
That's true.
It really is dependent on what you do with your education because opportunities are always there. You just have to look for them. And I think that FIU, I found the opportunities in the university to explore what I want to do, what inspires me, what I want to pursue in my future. I think that something that really marked me was last year that I had a friend who was telling me that there was this program called Radcliffe, which is an incubator for creative businesses. And they were like, oh, the applications are almost closing. I don't know but apply, why not? And you know what? I applied. One of the requirements that asked was to put a project, something that you were going to develop in that program. And they were going to give you a scholarship. It was a very nice scholarship.
Yes.
Which came very handy for me.
Yes.
So I put the project, which I'll be speaking later on, which I think has marked and taught me a lot during the process of doing it, which is called a cocoon. So I applied with this project, which was, I looked into inefficiency in the cities, and I wanted it to be a very meaningful project, something that marked people's everyday lives. And I noticed one day as I was driving that there were these people on the side of the road waiting for the bus on a bus stop shelter. And they were getting soaked. It was raining. A car passed and it splashed them. And I was just thinking, this is actually really terrible because that structure is meant to protect from the rain, from the sun,
from the
the heat, from the car,
yes.
anything that happens during that time that you're waiting there. So I said, how can I improve that? It's actually something that impacts a lot of people. And public transportation is something that I don't know if it could actually be implemented as it is in Europe here in the US. I don't think so.
I wish
so too.
Yeah.
But the US was designed for cars.
Yeah.
But I think that we can see to try to improve these
the
structures.
The structure.
Yes, and maybe promote actual public transportation.
A more healthy public transportation.
Exactly.
For everything.
Which is a great tool. So anyways, that project, I submitted it and I was accepted. And it's been a great process for me of growth because it taught me how to actually design for people. Because as architecture students, sometimes the teachers are like, okay, design this in this place.
Yeah.
Okay, do it. But these are
know.
projects that actually would impact people if they were to get built. And, who is going to use that? Are they going to like it? Are they going to feel comfortable? Is it actually...
Yeah, you need to think of everyone, every type of person
Exactly.
to design by code. I get, like, you also need to take into account
And
all those things.
And so I was like, okay, let me actually see how people are impacted by this structure. I already saw that there are problems with it, but let me try to find out more and listen to the people, what they have to say. So I interviewed more than 50 bus stop users. I went walking and the sun was so intense. I was so drained from just walking between bus stops. And I was like, I can't imagine someone elderly or someone with other needs doing that, and then you get to that bus stop shelter and the rain is hitting you. If it's raining, you are soaked. You go to work, you're like, you can get sick. There's a lot of issues.
And you have to wait for 30
Yeah.
minutes
Yeah.
or 15 minutes for the bus. Yeah,
Exactly.
And so in which process is that project now?
So that's a very good question. That's something that I keep asking myself because I want to give it to the people. I want to finish it. I want it to actually get built. That project at the moment, it's taken longer than I thought. I thought that it was going to be something that would take me maximum 2 weeks. And I was actually thinking of building it myself. I was going to do it. I was going to do it out of bamboo.
Bamboo,
Yeah.
nice.
But through research, I spoke with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I even went to Homestead because I found through a connection that there was an architect from Colombia who has designed great architecture with bamboo. And it was a material that I was fascinated by. But researching more and more, I understood that although I loved the material, it wasn't the material for the project. So it's been a process. The design has changed a lot. And right now, I actually had the opportunity to present the project to a big group of people in FIU. And it turned out that there was a city commissioner there, and she really liked the project. And she was like, speak with me once you have it, because we're interested.
Nice.
And for me, imagine a student who just designs for like pinups and crits. I was like, what? You actually want to build it? Okay, that's great. But it is more complicated than that. I think there are great ideas all the time. People come up with incredible things, but the actual doing of the idea to actually make it
yes
through,
it's complicated. And that I have seen, like in daily working, how when you present a project for permitting to the city, it takes months to get a permit, and then you get the revisions back, and it's time you spend, and then present it again. So the process of designing might be shorter, but getting the permit and the approval is
it's long. And you have to go through a lot of people. You already had convinced someone, but then you have to convince someone else. But it's been a process that I feel is so enriching, something that I had never experienced really until those moments. And I feel like it's so important because we design very in an
abstract way.
Yes,
yeah,
but it's completely different when you're actually doing it. And this project actually opened a lot of opportunities. There was a lady that I know who was interested for me to present it to the United Nations. Yeah, and it was a great opportunity for me. Imagine they tell me, "Oh, you're gonna be like presenting your project to the United Nations," because they wanted to show how youth is. What are they doing? so they go, like, for example, in Miami, they chose a couple of students, and they wanted them to present what they were doing. So for me, that was a great experience, and I was like, wow, United Nations, ready, this is done.
This is gonna go
to
the moon.
To the moon. I am done, ready. But the reality is that that's not the truth. This is something that there's always a long process. You think you're there,
and then you're like, you feel like you're like 10.
You're actually going back sometimes.
Back, yeah.
But it's been a very rewarding, even if the project doesn't get built.
But that was like, that's when you must be, persistent with the idea and be more, like, believe in what you're doing, because I think that's the only way. There's a lot of people that is going to tell you no, or that is going to put, like, barriers, but you just have to be, and you're very confident, because I see your passion.
I'm very passionate. I don't know about confidence. I think I'm just trying.
I think passion is able to move,
Yeah. That is true, because there's a quote that I really, really like, that I was having a difficult moment through the project, which I was like, can this even get done? Is it actually worth my time? Because I've dedicated a lot of time to this, and, I had self-doubts. And I was reading a book by Elon Musk, which said at the start, one of the quotes says, those who, like, kind of saying, like, people who think that they can change the world, like crazy people who think they can change the world, are the ones who do change it. So I thought I was crazy, like, doing something like this. Is it actually even worth my time, as I said? But you just gotta push for it, like, it's part of life.
It's like that, yeah,
exactly.
And we're gonna see that project soon. You will see. I believe it. So,
another project that also impacted me a lot. Because, as I mentioned, Costa Rica, I grew up, like, barefoot, running in,
that's amazing.
It's beautiful.
I grew up like that too.
Yeah,
like,
it's something very, I think, very special of when we're growing up in these countries. And sometimes, I don't know, it was different when I came here. So I felt a lot for nature. I feel a great responsibility of taking care of it, even if you believe in climate change or you don't. I don't like to see trash. On the beach,
on the grass,
on the beach.
I think, like, we need to feel like the obligation to care for it, because it's where we live.
Yeah.
So
I think it's even a matter of, like, for our own sake.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, for our own sake of taking care of it, because we live in it. So, as you mentioned, so there was something that impacted me a lot, and I'm sure that it impacted you too. When Irma hit, the hurricane, there was a lot of destruction in Fort Myers and all that area. And that was one of my favorite places here in Florida. So it hurt me a lot to go back there, and I would see all the houses.
Everything has changed completely. That, El Muelle, that disappeared.
Yeah.
The pier literally disappeared. Like,
got ripped off.
I haven't been there, but since the hurricane, but I saw the images.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was very impacting. And I just said, how is it possible that, hurricanes are very common in Florida? It happens almost every year. How is it possible that we keep constructing and they just keep getting destroyed?
Yeah, because the fast
development.
Fast development
is also, I'm sure it's also beneficial for the economy. A destroyed house creates a lot of jobs, because you have to do wall, who's going to build that, the materials. It's a lot of money. When houses get destroyed, it's a lot of money for the industry.
The industry, yeah.
So I understand how, I don't know if I really understand how it works, but it just doesn't make sense to me. How is it possible that we're not building just as strong for these structures?
In Cuba, the walls are like concrete. You can even punch the walls. If you punch it, you will break.
Yeah.
Your fingers. Yeah. But here it's so easy to, I think it's the fast construction, money, politics, that everything.
Exactly.
Involved.
Exactly. And there's things that, for example, I went to a conference of AIS in Orlando. I think it was last year. I don't know. And they were giving awards to people, architects, renowned architects who are designing for the future and for hurricanes. And I was just looking at the projects and I was like, I mean, look, I'm still a student, but there are some things that could be improved.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, let me ask the question. I raised up my hand. It was like 1,000 people in the auditorium. And I was just like, why did you build it in this shape? It was a rectangle.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I questioned the way he had built it. And at the end of the conversation, he was like, okay, you're kind of right. He was like, this is something that we can explore. I was like, how? You're getting an award for a hurricane house. How come you haven't really explored it? This is actually nothing new. I said, like, for example, a circular shape in a building has less with the wind. There's less impact. There's not a face that it's gonna hit into. It just flows around it. So, for example, there's some dome houses, like them or not shape. I don't know. Maybe we can improve the look of them. But there are dome houses that are built to just like hold very high winds. So I just question the amount of money and lives affected by this, and nature as well. Why don't we just make the investment? But again, as we speak, there's a lot of factors that
influence in the design.
The design.
Yeah, I have an experience. You know, like I had the opportunity to design from scratch a development, you know, like a hotel in Las Vegas. So I was very happy because this was the first time I was like, you know, like kind of a school, you know, but in the real time.
Yeah, wow. Congratulations.
And it has curves, you know, the same thing, you know, like the circulation, that was the main concept, to create a seamless circulation. That design went through so many changes. That like you see the original design and then the final is like because of money restrictions, mostly than like it's money issue. So at the end it ended up being like another regular building in Las Vegas or here in Miami. So
I think the money issue is something that, you know, clients are gonna be like, okay,
yeah, it's important.
Wall,
yeah.
Okay, how more expensive it is?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, than a regular wall. Oh, that much? No. Make it straight.
Yeah, make it straight.
I understand.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. But for example, in things that actually are beneficial to the standing of that building in the long term, why not make that investment? For example, the millions that, I don't know if millions, but a lot of money that is spent here in Florida with ACs trying to cool the buildings. It's just, we don't have harsh winters. You know, we don't have to deal with the heating of a building, but we have to deal with the cooling of it, especially in summer. There are buildings for example, in my country, buildings that are traditional that are called adobe. It's like, well, it's a material. Adobe is a material, and they make really thick walls. But those walls, what they do is they maintain really nice temperatures inside the house. So, for example, I went back to my country because sometimes when you live there, sometimes it's not that you don't appreciate it, but you're kind of blind because
yes, exactly. You see, like every time that you like, I get like refreshed, you know, like something like I'm back home. I feel more connected with the city.
Yeah, so you see things that maybe you didn't see before.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I was like, these houses are beautiful, the adobe houses. And unfortunately, they're getting destroyed because the government wants new buildings for the look, because they want that modern look. They want to show development. And it's very sad to see that, because the heritage of the country, what we had spoken before about the character of cities, is so important. Like, people don't travel to see the same thing from back home. They want to see why that building is local.
Exactly.
What makes it local?
What makes it from Costa Rica? What makes it like Cuba? What makes it Brazil? Like different areas. And also, like, talking about, I remember like when you go to Cuba, it's like all colonial, you know, like buildings, and the ceilings are double high ceilings.
Of course.
The doors and the windows are like huge. So, and there is like como like a courtyard in the middle.
Yes.
So even though there's no AC, like you were saying, but the breathe, the air, everything, gets refreshed, when it's a hot summer, or like it's a cooling system, a natural cooling system.
And I think those are real, like that's a local architecture.
Yeah.
I think that's good architecture, because when you start putting the, HVAC, like the everything, all those systems just to maintain, for example, the temperature of the house inside nice, that means that maybe the job wasn't done so well because you're asking of other things,
I think like with yes, and we have gotten so used to AC that I live in Cuba for 18 years. We didn't have AC. So it was fine to sleep with un ventilador de piso.
Yeah, like a fan.
Like a fan.
Yes. And it's nice. I like it.
It was okay. You open the windows, there's mosquito, okay, but you put something. But I think when it comes to the development, that you get used to something that's good.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's hard to go back. If I tell my dad, hey, you're not gonna have AC for me,
he's like,
okay.
what? No. Yeah, but you know what?
I know.
But humans, like we're used to adapting temperatures. I couldn't go to Minnesota.
Yeah,
it's gonna be difficult at first, like on that first winter. But the body is meant to adapt.
Yeah,
and it's not like, for example, I recognize that sometimes the heat here in Florida is another level, but I'm sure that with adaptation to those temperatures and having the actual architecture meant,
like you say, like built to the conditions, to more sustainable architecture. So, it's not as impactful as it will be without, like any, like AC. So,
yeah. And in the long run, if you're thinking about money, oh my gosh, but those walls are so expensive. I'm not saying Adobe, it could be any other thing. It could be 3D printed with the insulation inside. I don't know if you've seen those houses.
Yes, I have seen those new designs.
Yes.
It's the future.
It's the future.
So,
yeah, I think we have to move forward. We can't stay with those same systems that maybe we're using.
The same mentality, the same way of designing. Yeah, I totally agree.
As I was mentioning, after doing all these questions during the convention, people from the public, architects, engineers, came to me and they were like, those were very good questions. The reality is that they're not going to change the way they design because they've been doing it for so long. It's like starting from scratch for them. They have to go through experimentation. That's for you guys to do. But, I think the role of an architect is to continue to improve your designs because the times change. You can't stay so firm about how you were doing it when it might not work anymore.
I feel so like furious for that answer that they gave you, because it's also our responsibility, but you are the one who can make the change now.
Yeah.
You are the one who should lead by example.
Right now. Exactly. You lead by example. And that's something that I took in mind when they said, like, what I was saying, that architecture has to adapt. And that's something that you can find in the project that I was doing with the cocoon. Something that makes it special, I think, is that it adapts to the changing needs. How does it do that? So when I was observing that these shelters were not covering people from the sun or rain, I noticed that to protect them, you would have to do a huge overhang. It would even maybe go into the street. So that was not viable. How do you make that change for the needs of the people? With the changing circumstances, more rain, the sun changes direction, the rain changes direction too. How do you do that? So you have to make the structure adapt. So what I did was that the cocoon, which is like a little shelter, rotates on its axis. So if when the sun is coming from this direction, you can give the back of the cocoon to it. Kind of like this chair.
Yes, exactly.
You rotate it. So that rotation allows people to put it to their own comfort. And that was something that I took in mind when designing it.
That's nice. That's very innovative, I believe. Yeah. So going back to the school, what's the projects that you have been doing now? What's another one that the most rewarding as well? For example, the design that you're doing now is comprehensive design, right? When we were talking yesterday, you were saying that this is the closest thing to working in real life. So how has been that experience, and what's the contrast of this project with the other ones at FIU?
Yes. So with comp is like a class that is very technical, and it teaches you systems of the buildings, like structure, HVAC, all of those, you were there. And it's very difficult because we've been designing for all this time very conceptually. And then you're like, okay, do something, design it, and make sure it works.
And make sure it works, yes.
Yeah, and we were like, oh my gosh, okay, great. But I think it would have been great to have this type of teaching early on, to start thinking, how does this actually work? How do I actually build this? And this is something that I was always asking myself, because my mom, I guess she always influenced me to actually think, how does it work? Because she was there. She's been in the field. She knows that not because you do a wall like this means that it's actually going to get built. You got to make sure it works. And this is something that, for example, in one of my projects, which you can see in my website, it's called a membrane. And again, I was fascinated with bamboo. And bamboo has a very manual, like the way you build with it is very manual. Like it's not, pouring the concrete with a machine or like a 3D printer. This is actually a craft. And I was like, okay, if I'm actually going to design a building with bamboo, I better understand how it gets built. So I went into bamboo nurseries and I asked a lot of questions, how the material worked. And also I collected a lot of them, like little scraps on the ground. They would give me whatever bamboo they were actually going to throw away or burn. And I would take it and
start exploring
it.
Yeah.
I built a little model with the bamboo. Unfortunately, I threw it away. I shouldn't have. Always keep your models.
Okay.
Well, so I started if you have the space.
Yeah.
If you have the space. But
yeah,
because it was a moment where I was actually experimenting with it, It was outside the computer. I think that a lot of students, and, including myself, I think that if you get submerged into a computer, you actually break away from the reality.
And you lose that skills of working with your hands. Yeah.
And, I see those projects, they can look really cool, but do they actually work? Are you actually thinking how people are going to experience that space? I think it's so important to take the people in mind. And sometimes that gets forgotten. People like to do weird, cool shapes. But, it's different seeing it from there, kind of like a sculpture, but actually being inside. Like, for example, there's Zaha Hadid, which we mentioned before. I used to admire her a lot because, it's like she's breaking the ground. I love curves. Great. But I started actually studying one of her projects. Only one.
Which one?
It was it was somewhere in the Middle East. I don't remember the name. But it was just, I started seeing it and I saw the context around it. It was like if they had placed a huge sculpture in the middle of the city with a city full of history, with their own character. And they put a huge base of concrete, boom, and they put the building. And I was so sad about it because I used to think it was really nice, the project, until you actually see it with the context, with the people there, And I was very actually saddened that these type of projects, the white elephants, get built. And there's so much things that could be improved in the city itself. But there was a professor who actually worked for her, Cynthia, I don't know, Otoshan.
Cynthia. Oh, yeah. The blonde.
Yeah, the blonde.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she worked for her, and I was like, Professor, how is it possible that she designed something like this? And she was like, she's not designing for the context of this place. She's designing because she's her own brand. It's like, this is my style. It doesn't really matter the surroundings, because myself, I am a brand, and this is the project.
It's very commercialized.
Super commercialized.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're commercializing styles. That's what they do. But, do what you do. I personally don't feel like that. I feel like we have a big responsibility. Something that I quote in my website, a quote of mine, that I like to design in harmony with nature and in service of people. I think for me, those are my goals in projects. Those are my what drives me when designing. And that's what I try to implement in the projects.
And the name of your website is Verdora, which I read is verde for verde, y hora for time.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful, I believe, meaning.
Thank you.
Like green and time. So it's time for more
green.
For more green.
Yes. And, again, even if you're a skeptic regarding the changes in the earth, like in the planet, I think that green, it's just prosperity. It's just growth. It's time to grow, to be prosperous, I don't know. It's just something that I think
to revolutionize.
Yes.
In a different way, the way we build and design.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, Verdora starts with Radcliffe, because it was not only the project that had to be developed, but also my persona and whichever brand, like firm or studio, who was presenting that project. Because I think it's not only the project, it's also the firm, like the studio, and it has to have the same values, And Verdora started kind of like as an experiment to see how to build for the people. And I was surprised. This is something that we spoke yesterday, that I think as students, we feel that we're limited because we're just students. I hear a lot of people, friends of mine, saying like, oh, I'm going to wait to have my own thing.
Or to get the license, or study. Yeah, and
exactly.
You don't need that to start, building up a philosophy of design, your own identity as
and making a change. I don't think that you should limit yourself to where you're in life to actually start doing change. Because I think that if you really want to do something, it's not something that you wait on. It's not something that you're like, it's a slow process, but you got to start somewhere,
And that's one of the things I want to tell you. What, besides school and work, because you're also getting experience
in work.
At work.
Yeah.
And you're doing all these other many things that are so amazing. And I congratulate you by that.
Thank you. You too. You too. I think small steps can lead to great things, because it's not a big change all of a sudden. It's something that you have to work on and build for. But yeah, I think that, whatever you can do for free, like forget about money. I think that there's a lot of people that are driven by money. Look, I don't blame them, but I think that they should be driven by their passion, because when you're passionate about something, that's going to bring
money along.
Money,
yes,
or,
that's true. Yeah, it is.
It doesn't even have to be money. It's something like that fulfills you. That fulfillment will be achieved with whatever you're passionate about, working on it. So, that's when also like something that my mom tried to, that's why she was also like, don't study architecture, because maybe it's not a fast career to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I personally am not driven by money. I think that money is a tool, but it doesn't bring happiness. I think happiness is something that comes with, if you're happy, if you're fulfilled with what you're doing. I think if you're driven by money, you're always like working. You're like, oh, well, at least I'm getting my paycheck. But what about all that time that you're putting? It's your life, It's big pieces of life that you're just giving away for money that gets spent on material things, for example. And you see that a lot in Miami, where you see all that like bling bling
Miami.
culture. The Louis Vuitton bags, the Ferrari or the Lamborghini.
Yeah, and because and that's what I see. We come from so undeveloped countries where we don't have nothing, and coming here also can, like, you become like tempted, to have all these things, and it like I can tell you how many things in a way, because I'm not in that way very consumerist. I'm very simple. But in a year or in 10 years, how many things you accumulate and how the material things that at the end is going to like, why do I need this? Why, like at the end is things like that doesn't fulfill you. So, and the reconnection with nature, like, and as designers too, we were talking back again to that point, it's more time for nature, for that sensibility, that beauty.
Yeah, no, responsibility
that we have. Yeah.
Like I think that when you consume, there's nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong.
No,
I like to get my nice things.
Yes.
That's not something that I'm going against. It's just I'm going against that feeling of just
having
like
everything, the last thing,
thing, because I feel like there's a pressure that maybe like people feel through society that you gotta be with them. You gotta move with them because maybe you stay behind. So you gotta always stay with whatever's going on, even if you don't like it. Sometimes you just do it because
I remember I design 7 or design 8 project, a design studio. It was about that, and it was in Miami. The project is located in the alleys of South Beach in Miami Beach.
Okay, very nice.
Horrible alleys that you see Miami Beach, beautiful, but you look like this side and the other side, and what you see is scary. Like
of course.
I'm in another city of the United States. So it was centered in the alley and how to improve the alley. And the concept, it was that consumerist concept.
Okay.
And I designed something very like grotesque.
Okay.
And it was about all these like the things that we consume that in 2 months, like kind of like a building of trash, kind of a way. And the communication, the circulation of this, imagine between indeed alley, like a huge kind of like building, like organic building, but of trash, and the communication is very narrow. It's like suffocating you.
Oh my gosh!
Because that's how
you feel.
Sometimes how you feel, even in these cities, seeing all these trash in the streets, all these, like when you go to the stores for sale, like 10%, like that's how you feel. Like you can't anymore. You can't breathe. So that was the idea, like, and the human body, how like we are not used how to react to that narrow space, to that feeling sometimes,
Of course.
Yeah.
Well,
So
actually, that reminds me of something. Like, you just trash, right?
yeah.
Well, you must know because you were there. The amount of printing that we do.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And at work too.
Yes, at work too. The other day at work, I was like, we were printing like stuff to correct line weight stuff. And the amount of paper I collect, I was like, let me get this one. I'm not going to throw it away. It's clean, just the back. I ripped it and I did it into like a little booklet.
Yeah, exactly.
That same day, I had a book like that one. It was incredible. So much paper. And I understand why. Because it's kind of like something necessary. Because sometimes you don't see it in the computer. But there's a point that I don't think is that necessary. For example, in school, in comp, we were printing like 36 by 72 inches, like
kind of
huge,
like the same width of this
of this panel, and it was just like for the day. The teacher was like, and then one red circle.
Exactly.
Okay, fix that, and that huge paper was just thrown out, and I felt so sick about it.
I saw the project you did. It's like kind of like a boy.
It's like a little house.
A little shelter.
Yeah. Yes. So there's a project also on the website, and which I collaborated with a friend called Justina. And we both, like, for some time, every time I went to print, I would always complain to the person that works there, John. John, you know
John, poor John.
John, who works at the print lab. And I always used to go print. I was like, oh, John, here we are again, printing 36 by 72. And he was always complaining about it. And I was like, it's actually really terrible. Like, he showed me the amount of paper that was thrown away with this. And sometimes not even recycled. It was just thrown out. And because we don't have recycling bins in the school.
No, it's just a shame.
It's a shame. That paper could be used for something else. I don't know.
Do you know what the professor used to tell, like fall semester, because Christmas and also Thanksgiving wrapping? Yeah,
Who was it? Alice Reed?
I believe
don't know.
so. I don't know who was the professor that. I think it was when I took comp in the fall.
Oh, okay.
I forgot the name of the professor. Yeah, I remember I used it for wrapping.
Wrapping gifts. Oh my God. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, and it was just something that I was like, okay, I want to make a statement. I want to take all this paper, accumulated for quite some time, and then I even thought of like throwing it everywhere so they would see it and they would have a hard time walking. But I don't think this is a problem with the students. It's just the way the system in the school is done, that the teachers just require you to print. Sometimes they don't even really need it, but it's just for, okay, pin up. And sometimes the pin up is every day.
And if you don't have, you at least need to have something to show in the wall. And I think that should change as technology advances.
We have TVs. It's even nicer because you can zoom in into details. You could even do like videos with the projects.
Exactly.
And I think that's just something, again, the teachers of a different generation were used to paper, and now that they're transitioning, that they don't really even know how to use the TVs. I don't blame them, but it's just something that maybe the school should pursue, even for monetary reasons.
That's true, because also they charge us.
Yes.
Like, they charge us a fee for the printing and everything. That can be like easily removed, and the money that we save.
Exactly.
Maybe with the 3D printers now, because a lot of people don't have it, but I had to buy one at the end. But with the printing, I think
it's just something that could be reduced. I'm not saying to remove it, because it's something that if you want to print something, if you really need to,
that
you have the tool.
When we're in the pandemic, there was no printing, and everything was through the computer. If you want, like you say, you zoom in. We had videos. We had to create videos. So I believe that year, or John was very happy not to work there.
Oh my God, I bet he was, because he told me that he was so mad about it, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do something about this. And I went to my friend Justina, which I count on her because she has that same mentality. She's adventurous. She wants to explore, and she's not scared of doing like a statement. And we collected the paper for 1 month. That was it, 1 month.
1 month, yeah.
It didn't fit in one room that we had. We had to put it in a storage area, which John put in the storage. It didn't fit in the storage anymore. And we took all that paper to do, like, we were like, okay, what do we do? What statement can we do? And I said, why don't we demonstrate that with all these papers of imaginary things to build, why don't we actually build something with it? Exactly.
Wow,
that's why we
nice.
did kind of like a house.
Nice.
That's kind of what it came out to be.
Yes.
And people would go inside and see, oh my God, that's my project. Oh, that's my project. And we wanted the students to see it, but we wanted the teachers.
And what did
they say? You know what? They were like, I don't even know. I don't think they didn't even see it, because we did it for art night. And we worked until 1 a.m. there in the gallery, in a gallery that we have there. And we were like, okay, when they come to work, they're going to see it. And they really didn't see it. And Justina and I, we were very frustrated, because they were the public that we wanted, especially, to make a change. So we actually were like, you know what? they didn't see it, we're gonna make sure they see it. So we put it on the third floor of the studio, and we left it there for like a week. And they were so upset about it. Like the administration was like, if you don't move this, taga, taga. And we were like, okay, it's time to move it. But we were like, you know what? Here, we left it there. And it made some professors, whoever they were, uncomfortable because it was taking up a big space.
And you didn't like explain, or you didn't like have something to.
Well, I wish we did, but it was just something.
The structure broke.
The structure broke when we moved it because it was on the first floor. We took so many volunteers to put it up on the third floor. Like, we didn't take the elevator. We went with it.
The third floor, the when you have that...
the balcony?
The balcony,
yes.
Yeah.
And we left it there. And unfortunately, we didn't have something to inform. We did, but we left it there.
Again, unfortunately, that's something that I hope that there's so many changes that I see that FIU, like can do to improve not only, like the same issue with the paper, but also how to prepare better the students once they graduate to the real world, because that's something that, like, interviewing all the other guests, they have told me the same, like kind of like one of those issues that I think that's also one of the things that we talked yesterday about, how the need to be
like more realistic.
Yes. And we were saying that at least in every semester, to teach us about something more technical,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, and I don't want to, like, speak about, like, badly about my education, because, again, it's not the university. I think it's the student. But I think that, like any other university, there are things to improve. And I think you just, I don't know, can improve with time. I think that giving that reality check on students' work, is important. Understanding how it's actually built. So I think that's something that maybe could be like differently approached.
Different approach.
Yeah.
And so now you have your website. You have a strong statement and a passion, and also a goal. You're very sure that you want to change people's life through design. What would you say to your future self from here to 10 years?
Okay.
5 years.
What would I say? I think something, because when I reflect back, I think, I don't know how the future's going to look. I don't know what to expect from it. I don't know where I'll be. But when I reflect back, I think I've always put a lot of pressure on myself. I've always had like, oh my God, I'm so worried about the future. What is it going to be? Like, am I actually taking the right steps to get where I want to be? But life has really taught me that that's not something you can predict. That's something that life will take its own path, and you just have to adapt. I think that I will say, just live the present moment, always responsibly. But, don't live like, YOLO, but, actually be present in the moment, because that's the only thing that we actually have guaranteed. That's why I think that when people think of future, they're always like, oh, once I have my license, I'm actually going to do something about it. Like, I'm actually going to design what I'm passionate about. I think when you think of that, actually, you're not using the future as a tool, but something that is prejudicing the actual future.
Yes.
So just take day by day responsibly, and just, I don't know, be happy. I think there's a lot of people that are struggle like being happy. I think just do the things that actually make you happy. There's a movie that I really, really like. It's called About Time. I recommend it. I highly recommend it, which is what we're talking about. And he had the power of moving towards the path, or like he could, like, oh my God, I made this mistake. Let me go back. But he started changing into like leaving them, like, for example, instead of like going back, he limited himself to live the present, like not go back. Like,
yeah,
you have to see it. I'm not gonna spoil it. Just watch it.
About Time.
About Time.
About Time. Is it Netflix?
It was. And then they removed it. But you can find
It's
it.
good that they remove it. So
It's a very good movie. Very good movie. And I don't know. I think that's the advice I would give myself. Just live presently. Be present.
That reminds a book that I read. It's called Wabi Sabi, a Japanese philosophy of Japanese way of living life. And it's what I love about the Wabi Sabi concept is that they teach you how to live the present like nature does, you know? Like, and there is like a short phrase that they say, you know, like the mountains don't care about how your hair looks or how many times you cried or how much money do you have or how many followers do you have. You know, the nature simply don't care. It just accept you as you are. So it's just, you know, like and living the present moment is I think that to achieve happiness we have to be comfortable with what we were given. It's a tool. What we have is a tool. I think that's my advice. Like whatever you have, use it as a tool. Even if it's bad experiences, good experiences, those are tools to make you a better person. But you are responsible to make yourself better. Yeah. And how to make also, you know, like through design, through what we do, how to make us better and other people better.
Exactly.
Because I believe like to create a change also in the world, you need also to create a change inside you.
Exactly.
So that would be one advice. So what would be another advice I would give to students?
Students.
Yeah.
I think it's something that I've been mentioning throughout today, that is just don't wait. Like don't limit yourself because you're just a student. I think we have a lot of power and a lot of opportunity to make change. And I think you should start now. You know, you shouldn't wait until you graduate. I think we have a lot of power, and not even like university students. I'm talking as young as elementary. I had an opportunity to speak to in the city of North Miami Beach. There was a group of kids, you know, like who were about to enter maybe university, and they were just like talking to them about, I don't know, different things. And I said, don't limit yourself to your age. Like you're very powerful. If you're passionate about drawings, do drawings and make a business out of it. We have so much power to make businesses, you know, like make profit from our hobbies, of our talents. You know, I think that you're always thinking, oh, this hopefully gives me the opportunity to work for this company. Like, I think there's a lot of students in architecture that are like, or they recommended me this once, that they were like, what do projects for the company you want to work for? They were like, see their style.
Yeah, but
no,
exactly.
You have to experiment for your own thing. And look, if you really want to work for that company, they should be wanting someone with a new perspective.
Exact. Yeah. And so when you created the Verdora website, you created with the goal to also
do
kind of like a business.
Yes.
Too. So, and that's something that they at school they doesn't teach us. Business, architecture, more than being an art and being a tool of design, is a business. And how have you developed that with your mentality? How does that change?
It has changed a lot because, as you mentioned, it's not something that is taught in school. Like, oh, I can actually make profit out of this bunch of hours I've spent learning this program, the 3D modeling, for example. It's something that you have to see. I'm training for something, not to work for someone, but why not work for yourself, you know? So I think that, for example, 3D modeling, I had a commission from someone to 3D model something. She was able to, she needed a whole like booklet for it to sell. I was like, I can do this. I can make money from this. Wow, that's great, you know? And Verdora, it's been a slow process. I didn't get a big project all of a sudden. I think the closest is been the Cocoon. I also had a situation where someone contacted me from Texas, and he was like, oh, I want you to build 29 houses. And I was like, oh my God, great thing I did the website. No, but it was it ended up being kind of like a scam. Yeah, I was very cautious. I was very cautious because I was like, it seems too good to be true. It's too good to be true. 29 houses, really? Texas? I don't know. And I realized that, I had a couple meetings with him, and all of a sudden I was like, you know what? Let me put a price on my time because I'm giving free advice. Not that I'm so experienced, but, it's my time. And I sent him an email. Okay, you want another consultation?
This is how much
it's going to cost. And he stopped contacting. Of course, I kind of knew. But, this type of experiences are experiences for growth. Now I know how to deal with a possible client.
Well, Mariana, thank you so much for being here. I wish you a lot of success in the future, and I know you're gonna have like a great path. And I hope to see, waiting to see that the cocoon built all over Miami. Hopefully, yes. So thank you so much for being in this podcast. And see you in another episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Framing the Future podcast. Your 5-star reviews really help us continue what we do. Please rate your listening experience, and let's keep building this beautiful community together. For exclusive access to more design content, visit thearchitecturalauthority.com or download our app from the App Store or Google Play. Until next time, stay creative.